principle in the sense that society needs to engender equality. Society needs to engender inclusivity, and society needs to ensure that everyone has access to all and private places with a way to live in harmony and have equality. Well, we are talking about disability law, progress, challenges, and the way forward. I have with me special people, and I have Abdul Wahab Mateko. Mateko, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Abdul Wahab Mateko is the interim national president, Spinal Cord Association of Nigeria. You are heartily welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I also have with me Oluwatomisin Olatayo. Oluwatomisin Olatayo is a journalist, gender specialist, and inclusion strategist. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Well, the issue at stake has to do with the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Provision Act of 2018. And we have found out that there have been a progress and there have been bills that have been signed and gazetted in some states. Please, can you give us an update, Mateko?
Yeah. Thank you very much. The National Disability Law, the law that prohibits discrimination against persons with disability was enacted by the federal government in 2018 and signed by President Buhari in January 2019. And that law makes a lot of provisions that gives some sense of belonging to persons with disability in Nigeria, in line with the provisions of the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which Nigeria has also signed. And so with that law, it covers all the length and breadth of Nigeria, and it guarantees the rights and privileges of persons with disability at at par with others in the society, trying to remove the barriers to make everywhere accessible, to make facilities and privileges, everything accessible to persons with disability. And that was a very good legal framework for the disability community to program, to build on. And that's the way we have been since 2018.
Yeah, thank you very much. Oluwatomisin, when we are talking about disabilities, can you please enlighten us what are the types and the effects of disability that we are talking about?
Okay, an internationally recognized definition of disability would be all forms of partial or complete loss of any body parts when it comes in contact with what we call barrier. That is what they define as disability. So it means that if I, as a blind person, just have blindness, for instance, there's no barrier, there's no challenges, there's no hurdle to cross, there are no challenges, it's just an impairment. But once you have that impairment, be it a complete impairment or a partial impairment, and then you have obstacles, you have barriers that prevent you from participating maximally, from being on the same level with someone who has no impairment, that's when we have disability. And then they say that there are so many kinds of disability. You have sensory disability. Under sensory disability, you have blindness, hearing loss. You have persons affected by albinism because, of course, their sense organ, the skin, and their eyes are affected in their own kind of disability. You have intellectual disability, developmental disability. You have physical disability, people who use wheelchair, crutches, calipers, prostheses. These are kinds of disability. You also have psychosocial disability, which is not a physical, it's an invisible disability, but affects a person's mental state of health. You know, you have, under that, you have people who have been through postpartum depression. Under that, you have persons with any ailment that is associated with their emotions, be it bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and so many other examples therein. So we also have those with multiple disability, somebody who is blind and deaf at the same time, somebody who is deaf and is also physically impaired at the same time. So those are examples of multiple disability. Even persons with albinism, we sometimes classify them under multiple disability because of their skin color, they are prone to skin cancer, and because of their eyes, the color of their eyes and the level at which their eyes can, appropriate objects, they are also prone to partial or total blindness, as it were. So you can also see they are persons with multiple disability. Now, when all this kind of impairment, all this, things that can happen to anybody, either genetically, maybe in the course of your life you have an accident, or old age, when there are barriers such as attitudinal barriers, communication barriers, accessibility barriers, policy barriers, that's when you can then say that that person is with a disability.
What do you mean by policy?
Participation barriers, that is where there are no guiding principles, such as we are discussing the disability law, where there are no platforms, enabling environment, exactly, enabling environment, be it laws, be it implementation, because it's a different thing to have a law. It's a different thing for that law to be implemented. And it's also a different thing for the people to also accept that law which is being implemented. So these are things that can serve as hindrances to persons who have impairments to now be known as persons with disabilities.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Matako, since 2018, what's the update?
Yeah, since 2018, what was expected is that every state is expected to domesticate the art. The law that has been enacted by the federal government, every state is supposed to domesticate it, because just like we say the government should be closer to the people, we have the federal government, we have the state government, we have local government. So if states domesticate the law, it brings the provisions of the law and the enjoyment of those rights very close to people in who are residents in their state. And so far, 23 states in Nigeria have domesticated the law between 2018 and now. We still have 13 states that have not domesticated the law against discrimination against people with disability.
What is the state? What is the status of Ogun State?
Ogun State happens to be one of the 13 states that have not domesticated the law, and unfortunately, it happens to be the only one in the southwest that does not have that is not implementing disability law. So in the southwest zone of 6 states, it's only Ogun State that does not have a law that is guiding, that is giving support and fulfilling the needs and yearnings of persons with disability in the southwest. That's the way we are in Ogun State.
Tomisi.
Yes, sir.
I'm aware that about 3-4 years ago, we had an opportunity to also interact, and it was in process that some steps were taken to advance this course. What's the obstacle now?
Okay, so back in 2017, I remember there was this town hall meeting the then governor, Ibikunle Amosun, had, and I was opportune to ask him that, excuse me, sir, what's going on with the law to protect persons with disabilities in Ogun State? And he said he had signed the law. And we were all excited at the time that, oh, even before the federal government would, enact theirs, Ogun State was, doing wonders. Unfortunately, that administration ended and another administration came in, and what we heard was that the law that was signed at the time was not implementable. The government noted that the law was, very ambiguous. A lot of provisions in the law were things that were not realistic because of our economic standing at this time, and so the law needs to be reworked on. And right now, we have sat down as a community of persons with disabilities, trying to, work with the government to ensure that, oh, okay, if you said we need to revisit this law, at our own end, as Mr. Matepo would further analyze, we have sat down, looked at the law. Even when we compare it to what we have internationally, based on that, we can say that initially it's something that was implementable. But because the government is also trying to be realistic, especially with our present economic situation. We have decided to say, okay, let's see some part of this law that can be adjusted, you know, to ensure that it is passed again, signed this time around, and implemented this time around.
Can I quickly ask you?
Yes, sir.
Who are the stakeholders that are needed to ensure that this act goes through?
Okay, quite a lot of stakeholders on the part of the community of persons with disabilities. We need persons, leaders of organizations for and of persons with disabilities. On the part of the government, the ministries that are, in fact, I can say that all ministries has to be, because there will be a part of that law that would affect every of those ministries. So the Ministry of Women Affairs, Health, Justice, Fiscal Planning, Urban Development, Works, all of them must, you know, come together. And then you have the State House of Assembly as well. All our representatives must also put their hands together. The government, the Ministry of Justice, who would be in charge of the implementation, the gazetting, and ensuring that it is a working law. So, and then it brings us to the mass media as well, just like we are having this conversation here, because you will be saddled with that responsibility of publicizing the law and ensuring that conversations of the law are not, you know, done under the camera or behind the camera. They are brought to the front burner. We also have the people, because at the end of the day, I tell people a lot of times, when you make provisions for persons with disabilities, you invariably make provisions for yourself. Imagine if every person with disability has access to good health system, good recreational facilities. Imagine old age, when you can no longer walk or see. It means that invariably you would also have access to those facilities, because you have now become a person with a disability, and your interest is being catered from the onset. So everybody, we are all stakeholders trying to ensure that we do the right thing now, so that it doesn't come back to haunt us.
I may need to also ask Matepo. You are the interim national president for Spinal Cord Association.
Yes.
But notwithstanding, we also have your peers that you are also relating with. Can I ask you, for 5 years, this act, this bill has not been passed. What have you done? You are a citizen of Ogun State.
Yeah.
What have you done to ensure that all these stakeholders are engaged?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, the disability community in Ogun State, those who are residents in Ogun State, they've been doing a lot of work. Because when we met with the Honorable Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development,
that was when?
In February.
Okay.
She said, February this year, yeah. Okay. She said people with disability in Ogun State have been making noise about this law. And when we met the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Fiscal Planning and Urban Development, we said anytime they went for town hall meetings, people always raise the issue of this disability law. That in the last 7 years, people have been raising the issue. We now felt, okay, let us look at another approach. Let us see whether we can change the approach. And what we did, thanks to the funding we got from the Disability Rights Fund, we brought all the disability groups, like Tosin mentioned. We brought all of them together for 2 days here in Abeokuta. And we looked at the Amosun law clause by clause and proposed alternatives. And
to who?
To the government. Okay. Because the government was saying the law was not implementable. But if the law is not implementable, you have to do something about it. But nobody was doing anything about it. We now said, let us now do something about this. We are the person concerned. We are wearing the shield. We know we are species. So let us sit down and look at the law. We got a consultant, and we sat down together here in Ogun State with all disability groups. For 2 days, we looked at the Amosun law clause by clause. And then we came up with alternatives to those provisions. And then we now packaged the two, which is what I have with me here now, the old law and the new proposed amendments. We presented them to the Honorable Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, to the Ministry of Justice, to the Ogun State House of Assembly. We met the Speaker and 12 honorables. And then we also went to the Ministry of Physical Planning.
That was when?
That was in March, just 3 months ago. Okay. So we did all this, and then we presented. We said, look, everybody has been saying the law has done, it cannot be implemented. Now we want to do what can be implementable. Please work on this. And so we expected that by now something should have been going on, because we actually wanting the bill to be an executive bill. Because the law that was signed in 2017 that was said to be not implementable, maybe it was a private member's bill. Maybe that's why the government was not committed to it. But now we want to let the government know that let us look at this again, because it is unthinkable that in the whole of the Southwest, It's only Ogun State that's not implementing disability law, and that is not quite a good PR news to hear. So we made that effort, we took that step, and we even just today, we send reminders to all those agencies I've mentioned, all those MDs I've mentioned, that they should not forget the promise they made. Because when we went to all those agencies, the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, Justice, the House of Assembly, they all promised that, okay, this step is the right step to take. You have done the right thing. We'll look at it and we'll do the needful. But that has been 3 months now, and nothing has been done. So we need to move forward.
It's all right. Tomisi, I want to ask you, what has been the negative effect of this law not being in action?
Okay, so one of the negative effects of not enacting a disability law in Ogun State is that discrimination abounds. When people do things...
When you say discrimination abounds, can you elaborate?
Okay, so it means that opportunities that are supposed to be distributed evenly, persons with disabilities would be left behind. And when you offer such opportunities on the long run, you do it based on the part of sympathy. You do it because, oh, these people, they are our people now, let's try, you know. You're not doing it because it is the right thing to do. You know, when they say where there is no law, there is actually no sin. Nobody can be seen to be committing an offense. Infrastructures in Ogun State are highly inaccessible. You know, I remember going...
Like?
Okay, so let me take, for instance, the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development. We were there to see the commissioner and all of that. And we couldn't have our meeting where we were supposed to have the meeting because it was highly inaccessible for our members. So many other infrastructures, public places, you go to banks, when persons who uses wheelchair approach bank, they are asked to stay outside while they bring the cashier and everything to them outside there, you know. Even as our children are being affected, you find out that we have more of segregated schools in Ogun State and less of inclusive schools when we should actually be practicing inclusive education. You go to an hospital and there are no facilities for you. They're looking at you like you fell from the sky. You know, that guiding principle is not there. Opportunities, when you say, okay, opportunities for employment, at the federal level, you say 5% should be reserved for persons with disabilities. Is it the same way here? I remember back when Governor Amosun at the time was offering opportunities, employment opportunities for young persons in Ogun State. Out of 100 that was done, he said he was going to give persons with disabilities 10. But when you look at it, actually, did we get up to 10? You know, and that's because it could do that and go free because there's no law. There's nothing to hold him accountable.
Let me quickly interject here. Is it government responsibility alone?
It's not, and that's why I'm saying that when there is a law, for instance, if I walk into, I've been to a lot of private stations in Abeokuta here, not because I am not qualified for that job, not because I do not have what they want or I do not project what they want, but because I'm a person with disability. I've gone through an interview here in Ogun State. I went through the written interview. I did the oral interview. Everybody was smiling and impressed, only for me to hear that, oh, you're a person with disability. How would you cope? The only slot we have is at night. How would you work at night? And so, madam, we're sorry, you know. But if there was something to that effect that, no, you can't disqualify me on the basis of my disability. I qualify for this opportunity, and I should be allowed to participate without any barrier.
Let me ask Mateko. Contemporarily, yes, when we compare Nigeria with other nations, yes, what do you think should be in place?
You are comparing heaven and earth together. You mean the differences are so enormous that if you go outside the shores of Nigeria, you see how persons with disability are integrated into the daily lives of everybody. You know, there's nobody here, like Tomisi said, if you go to public places, they'll be looking at you in Nigeria. What do you want here? Now you can see if our people, if our ladies are pregnant, for example, they go to the hospital, they say, who did this to you? As if people with disability are not supposed to be pregnant. Who is the wicked man who did it to you? Meanwhile, in Europe and in America and other places, these are normal things. You go with your scooter, you go to shopping mall, you go everywhere. Now, even in Nigeria, to enter some places, they will tell you they don't want wheelchair users. If something happened last year at the Murisala Mohammed International Airport here in Lagos, when the son of somebody who was a former governor here wanted to buy some snacks from the history, they told him straight away that you're on a wheelchair, we won't allow you to come to enter.
So the way forward?
So the way forward is just for the government, like Tommy said, the way forward is for the government to do the needful. They mean it is, the government is supposed to enact the law. Everything that we are getting now as people with disability is just on charity. And if, like, I must be very frank, let me tell you that the Honorable Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development is very, very friendly to the disabled community in Ogun State. But what if she lived there tomorrow and another person is appointed the commissioner? There could be differences, and all these things she's doing is not institutionalized. It's just personal, doing it out of her personal conviction and volition. But if it is a law, like Tommy said, if you do not give me what the law says, I can hold you accountable. I can take action against you. But there's nothing for us to fall back on in Ogun State. People will do it and say they are doing charity solely. This is only what we can do. And we are doing a favor as it were, and so you have nothing to say.
Tommy,
yes, sir.
Your final word.
Okay, so my final word would be to plead with all stakeholders that planning for persons with disabilities is invariably, like I used to say, planning for ourselves. Nobody is cursed because of disability. Disability is a phenomenon that can happen at any point. And so if we do not plan for the future now, it means that when that future comes, we will not have anything to fall back on. And so I'm just going to appeal to everybody from all ministries concerned, the State House of Assembly, the executive, to ensure that we have a working disability law in Ogun State. It's the right thing to do. It's noble, and it doesn't cost so much if we look at it on the long run.
It's a pleasure having both of you. I want to appreciate Oluwatomi Latayo for being here today to speak on behalf of the special people of Ogun State. Oluwatomi Latayo she's a journalist, gender specialist, and inclusion strategist. She's also with a blind group.
Foster, yeah.
Well, I also have Abdul Wahab Matepo, who is the interim national president, Spinal Cord Injuries Association of Nigeria. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Well, on a special note, we appeal to the state governor and all stakeholders to please come together and let's have attention, care for the special people in Ogun State. Ogun State has been a leader, and it must continue to be a leader in all facets of life. So until next week, I want to thank our viewers that this is how far we can go. We just have to wrap it up. Time is against us. Until next week, when we come again, I'm Akin Okudoro, your uncle. Bye.